our growth is going to be less than we thought earlier this year.
China, 67%. European Union, 39%. Vietnam, 90%. India, very, very tough. Very, very tough. They charge us 52%.
Well, at the moment, the market is...
India's era of growth and global influence, shaped and inspired by the bold vision of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Be a part of a historic moment as he sets the agenda to empower the youth, foster innovation, and raise India's stature as a global leader. Only on the News 18 Rising Bharat Summit 2025.
Good evening, you're watching Brass Tacks. I'm Zaka Jacob. It's been a black Monday on Dalal Street as investors have lost more than 12 lakh crores of market value in various stocks. The Sensex ended up more than 2,000 points in the red and the Nifty shed more than 700 points. Most of the benchmark and sectoral indices finished in the red. While the rule of the market is to use every dip as a buying opportunity, this time might be different because no one quite knows where the bottom is. Is it going to be a trade war between the US and China, the two biggest economies in the world? Is America going to go into a recession? Goldman Sachs, one of the top bankers in the world, has put a 1 in 2, almost 1 in 2 chance of the US going into recession later this year. Will countries be able to clinch individual trade deals with Trump and bear the pain in the interim? There are many questions that are still up in the air, and what all of this means is that there is a lot of uncertainty. And uncertainty is the one thing that markets do not like. But first, the warning signs are clear. Goldman Sachs, I talked about them, one of the world's top bankers. Last week, they had said the probability of a US recession was 1 in 3. Over the weekend, they've upped that to almost 1 in 2. So from 35%, they've gone up to 45%. The firm says that if the April 9th tariffs, which is when the reciprocal tariffs, country by country tariffs take into effect, then the forecast will change into an outright recession. It's not just Goldman Sachs. Other big banks in America have also agreed. JP Morgan has increased its recession odds by 60%. S&P Global puts the likelihood between 30 and 35%. The Federal Reserve is now considering a package of 3 consecutive 25 basis point rate cuts starting in June. But even that may not be enough. Goldman is in fact predicting a full 200 basis point cut over the next year if a recession hits. That's a 2% cut in interest rates. But President Trump is not worried. In a social media post just a few hours ago, he said there is no inflation and that key economic indicators, whether it's oil prices, food prices, interest rates, are all down. But when he last spoke to reporters on board Air Force One, this is what Donald Trump said. He said that the tariffs are like a medicine and sometimes a sick patient needs to take that medicine.
Pain in the market, at some point you're unwilling to tolerate this idea of a Trump put. Is there a threshold?
I think your question is so stupid. I think it's I don't want anything to go down. But sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something.
So the tariffs, the Trump tariffs, have been billed as a harbinger of a golden era for American industry, but it has sent the global markets into a tizzy. The Asian markets have particularly felt the tremors of the tariffs. Asian stocks from Shanghai to Tokyo to Sydney to Hong Kong have all plunged to levels that we haven't seen in years. This is a blow for Asia's manufacturing hubs, which count the US as a key market for exports. Hong Kong's Hang Seng had the worst day today since 1997. It fell 13.5%. In Taiwan, it fell about 10%. Japan's Nikkei 225 closed just a shade under 8%. In Singapore, the Straits Times Index saw the biggest drop since the 2008 global financial crisis. It ended 7.5% lower. In Shanghai, the composite there was down more than 7%. South Korea fared slightly better compared to most of its Asian peers. It ended the day 5.7% lower.
引き続き我が国に対する関税
We must continue to strongly ask US President Donald Trump to lower tariffs against Japan, but the results won't come overnight. As such, the government must take all available means to ensure that domestic measures are carried out.
なりません。我が日本国は
We must explain to them clearly that our country has done nothing unfair to the United States.
言うことをきちんと言わなければならないと思っております。
政府针对美方滥施关税已经阐明了严正的立场。美国以各种借口宣布对包括中国在内的所有贸易伙伴滥施关税，严重侵犯了各国的正当权益，严重违反了世界贸易组织的规则，严重损害了以规则为基础的多边贸易体制，严重冲击全球的经济秩序稳定。中国政府对此强烈谴责，坚决反对。
All right, India continued to maintain a slight edge over its Asian peers, but the shock was felt by Dalal Street today as well. The Nifty 50 ended over 3% lower at the end of the trading day, over 750 points. The Sensex too opened nearly 4,000 points lower. It slid about 3.5% since its last trading session. The Nifty, when it opened, was over 1,000 points down early, but it managed to recover somewhat, about 300 points or so. It was a 10-month low, both for the Sensex and for the Nifty. It's reportedly wiped out investor wealth in excess of 12 lakh crores. The crash follows a massive sell-off in Asian equities. All of these benchmark indices have been scared by the Trump tariffs. All 13 major sectoral indices today on the Dalal Street traded throughout the red in the day today.
Well, it has turned out to be a black Monday for global markets, and there's really no other way to describe what we've seen happen. President Trump's tariffs have sent stocks into a tailspin. Around $9.5 trillion in market value has been vaporized in just the last 3 trading sessions across the world. Wall Street plunging after the opening bell, bracing for another rocky session. European markets opened with deep cuts. In fact, all major markets trading with intraday losses anywhere in the range of 4 to 6%. Yields on the euro area short-term government bonds plunging today after hitting a 2.5-year low on Friday. Bond prices are rallying across the world as investors hunt for safe havens, and very few to find at this point in time. In fact, frontline indices across Asia extended their sell-off. Hong Kong, that market led losses in the region, with the Hang Seng suffering its biggest single-day loss since 1997. Meanwhile, commentary in People's Daily, the Chinese Communist Party mouthpiece, suggested that the sky will not fall due to Trump's tariffs, but the article did acknowledge that things will be painful, but it's nothing that the country cannot handle. And President Trump has said that he didn't crash the market on purpose and cannot predict what will happen to stocks. In fact, he was speaking to reporters, maintaining that tariffs will not push inflation higher in the US, but that's the big fear, and that's the fear that the Fed is talking about as well. In fact, the Federal Reserve chief is saying that the tariffs will be inflationary. Now, President Trump also claiming that several world leaders have spoken to him and are dying to make a deal. Meanwhile, India has not been immune to what's been happening with the global markets as well. Our markets fell. Of course, we saw a little bit of a recovery coming in towards the close of trade, so the markets closing off their intraday lows. But nevertheless, it was a very, very difficult day for the Indian markets as well.
Countries around the world are sort of clamoring for a response to the Trump tariffs. Trump, of course, has indicated he's open to cutting deals. So External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar has spoken to his US counterpart, Secretary of State Marco Rubio. The two leaders have agreed on the importance of the early conclusion of the bilateral trade agreement. That is India's hope, silver bullet, if you will, to try and get over the pain of the Trump tariffs. Let me go across to my colleague Sanjay Suri, who's joining us live from Washington. Trump, in fact, tweeted some time back talking about the conversation with the Japanese Prime Minister. We had earlier Vietnam saying they're reducing their tariffs to zero. Now the Indian External Affairs Minister and the Secretary of State have had a conversation there. Is this the best case scenario we can hope for, Sanjay, that individual countries, India included, hope to try and hammer out some kind of a bilateral trade arrangement with the United States, and in the interim, whatever pain there is, you just have to find a way to bear it?
Well, the immediate best case scenario would be for the markets to begin to rebound, and we've seen that a few minutes back. Wall Street is back into green territory, but then again there has been some slippage, so this is quite a seesaw situation, but that is so far as the markets go. But clearly this was a very timely, and we have to say a particularly well-timed conversation between Jaishankar and Rubio. The two, of course, had met at the time of Trump's inauguration. They had an hour-long bilateral meeting. We even had a bit of a quad meeting to start everything off. So a foundation was laid there. The point that Jaishankar is making is that India is not just another country on that list that we saw at the Rose Garden. There are a lot of political issues of convergence and strategic issues of convergence between India and the US, and the two countries are building on that. We saw Tulsi Gabbard in Delhi, J.D. Vance is expected in Delhi soon. So there is a great deal of movement, and so far what we've had is that going one way, and on the trade and the tariff front, everything going the other way. The point of this conversation is that you cannot really have two contrary movements like this, ideally certainly not, and the two should talk to one another, and this is an attempt, and Jaishankar very carefully put it, that they spoke about the Indo-Pacific, the Indian subcontinent, and they agreed that they should take the bilateral trade agreement forward. So there is some attempt to bring a convergence between the two, and every country is looking after itself. Certainly India is going to look after itself and build on the political togetherness on the economic front.
All right, Sanjay Suri, we'll see how this plays out. Like I said, this is the best case scenario for all countries, including India. Hope to cut a deal with Trump. That, of course, will take time. It might take months. And in the interim, hope that this pain is bearable. We'll move on to what President Trump has been saying over the weekend and in fact this morning as well, where he said he has spoken to leaders. In fact, he said he spoke to 50 leaders from around the world who are hoping to convince him to reduce these tariffs. Some of these tariffs are as high as 50%. In fact, he also says that several countries are in negotiations with the Trump administration before they can agree to reduce the tariffs. For example, Cambodia faces a 40% reciprocal tariff. They've now promised to reduce tariffs on American imports from 35% to 5% in return for negotiations. The European Union has suggested a willingness to negotiate while at the same time working on possible countermeasures. Reports also suggest that the European Union could drop bourbon whiskey from their retaliatory tariffs list. The UK has entered into negotiations with the United States to reduce the 10% tariff on British exports into America. Taiwan was hit with a steep 32% tariff last week. They have now committed to zero tariff deals while avoiding retaliatory tariffs. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is in the US. He's expected to meet Trump later on tonight, and tariff reductions are expected to be discussed during their conversations later tonight as well. Indonesia is also expected to send a delegation to Washington to negotiate tariffs. Vietnam has requested a 45-day delay on a 46% reciprocal tariff that's been imposed by the United States on that country, but that request so far has not been entertained. India is one of the countries, few ones, that is in the midst of active negotiations over a bilateral trade deal with the United States, which India is hoping will give it some reprieve from these tariffs. India plans to continue cutting import duties to try and counteract the US tariff hikes. So it's been a yo-yo session on Wall Street already. It opened over 1,000 points down to the Dow Jones, and then suddenly there was a steep climb, and now back in a red territory as well. Reed Alexander is Wall Street correspondent with Business Insider. Thank you very much, Reed, for speaking with us. Can you explain so far what's been going on in the trading day? It's been a wild session. It's been going up and down between red and green, and now back in the red again.
Yeah, it's been a very volatile day here in the United States, and a series of several volatile days that are really causing concern for investors. There is concern that, in fact, the market could enter what is defined as bear territory, which would be a 20% drop. I think right now we're at 17% lower than where we have been. So we are approaching bear territory, which, of course, activates another concern in investors' minds, the R word, recession. So we're anticipating several days of stock sell-offs. We still see corporate valuations higher than they have been. We're expecting a rough week ahead for Wall Street, and people are starting to metabolize the very real consequences of this global trade war.
So, Reed, just as what we saw in the last few minutes in the markets, if there's any indication from the White House, from the Trump folks, that they're willing to consider a pause, or there might be some rationalization of these reciprocal tariffs announced last week, then the market might respond positively, like we saw just a few moments ago. Is there any indication to that effect from the White House?
No, I'm afraid not. There is not. President Trump has said he's sticking with this and that this is a full court press moving ahead on this plan. Now, the question being, what is really the goal here? Is it because the Trump administration and the White House think that this is the antidote for an economy that's sort of been out of whack, as it were? You know, we've heard them routinely criticize partners in Europe, members of international security alliances, around how much they're paying into these treaties. There is this belief in Washington that the world is sort of freeloading and the United States is picking up the slack. So it maybe that is the outcome that President Trump is hoping to correct. But it could also be a negotiating position, as you point out. India has signaled through back channels it wants to come to the table, maybe negotiate some better terms or some concessions. So if President Trump were to walk back the commitment he has made now, that could weaken his position at the negotiating table. So I don't think we will see them telegraph any kind of pullback from this very serious position that they've taken.
All right, Reed Alexander, Wall Street correspondent with Business Insider. Thank you very much for joining us here on CNN News 18. So it's been a black Monday of sorts in global markets, and the Indian markets too are completely tanking. The Sensex opened over 3,000 points down. It's recovered slightly towards the closing hours, but also the Nifty opening 1,000 points down, again slight recovery. But how does India play this with the rest of the world? This is of course the pain from the Trump tariffs. Let's try and go across to Mr. Mohandas Pai, Chairman of Aaron Capital. Black Monday this, we're calling it, Mr. Pai. How does India, how does the rest of the world deal with the pain of the Trump tariffs?
You know, Zaka, we need to understand the reasons for this huge tariff by Trump. The US is in a mess. It has got a debt of $36 trillion, which is growing at $2 trillion a year because that is a budget deficit. It cannot come down. And budget deficit may go up because interest costs are going up. This year, interest costs are $1.2 trillion. It's gone up from 500 billion maybe 5 years ago, where they had the stupid thing called the new monetary policy, which said interest rates are low, keep on borrowing and running deficits. And that may go to 1.5 trillion next year. The debt of 36 trillion is expected to go to maybe 44 trillion in the Trump administration if it's business as usual. It has a trade deficit of something like 600 or 700 billion dollars, largely coming from 4 countries. China, which is 400 billion, and I think the EU is about 350. Mexico and Canada make up about maybe 500. So they got huge trade deficit that's not going to come down because the mercantilist policy of China, which is subsidizing exports and pushing goods to the United States around the world and destroying everybody's industry. Now, what are the options that Trump has? And the option that Trump has is very clear. He has to cut government expenditure, which is being done by DOGE. And you're seeing the reactions by many of these leftists and others who are, on the gravy train, feeding off the public. And that's going to happen. They want to reduce $1 trillion, maybe 500 billion could be reduced. Second, he wants to make sure that tariffs imposed on American exports to countries come down. So both sides have the same tariff, which is a good policy because for far too long, America has been a dumping ground for all the goods from all the countries. While it is okay, China has been the big issue because the mercantilist economy, they're able to dump much more at a much lower cost. So he wants to bring it down. Now, and he has to refinance his debt and bring down the 10-year GSEC rate to 3.5 because 4.2 now is come to 3.9 just Friday because a lot of the bonds that money that he has borrowed are on treasury bills which have to be refinanced and is coming up. This is a perfect storm. So he has imposed a 10% tax on imports all across the board. I think the world can absorb that because current countries will devalue the currency. He'll get some money. Now he has gone the next step to force them to negotiate to say that I will do it as per the formula. And what is the simple formula? The simple formula is the total deficit over the exports to America. And you just take that and halve that and say that, look, this is what I'm going to impose till the 9th. What is his strategy? He wants countries to come and negotiate and bring down the tariffs. If countries come and negotiate to bring down the tariff, we have a much better global trading system because markets will be more open. There'll be much more merit. Non-tariff barriers and tariff barriers will come down. The second thing he's doing is to force them to buy more from America because that's the only way that extra tariff can come down because if a deficit comes down. Now, China is exporting through Vietnam and Vietnam has got $100 billion trade surplus. Last year, China had a $1 trillion trade surplus of the rest of the world. $1 trillion. The world has to fight China. China is destroying everybody's economy, dumping goods all over the world. $1 trillion. One single country. Never happened before in human history.
No,
so
but
Trump
I
is
get that,
doing
Mr.
Let
Pai.
me finish.
Yeah.
Let me finish. Now, this is a opening gambit, and Trump is on record to say many countries have now called him up and said they want to negotiate. He probably will push the tariffs coming on the 9th, maybe by 30 days, 40 days, call all those countries and start negotiating to bring down their tariffs and get promises from them to buy American goods. And if we don't buy, we're going to look at it again 6 months. And he'll change the global markets. It's a high-risk strategy. High-risk strategy. There's great degree of pain.
Exactly.
And the enemy should be China. So there's no other way that he could have done it except tackling everything. And he knows in the first 6 months, 1 year honeymoon period, he'll be able to do that. Beyond that, politics will take over because the midterm elections will come.
But tell me, Mr. Pai, there is a lot of short-term pain. How does Trump justify that? I mean, just in the last 3 trading sessions, I think in the US, in just 2 trading sessions, they've lost more than $5 trillion, right? And big American companies have lost that value, right?
So this kind of volatility.
Yeah, how does Trump, bear that short-term pain? Even if you say that in the long term, it'll be good for America and for the rest of the world, trade will be rebalanced.
Zaka, I read somewhere that 1% of Americans own 50% of the stock, all right? 1% of Americans, the wealthy Americans are getting it. I'm not justifying that. But what I will say is, the market is overreacting, thinking that this is going to be permanent, there's going to be a recession. In my view, it is not going to be permanent. He will postpone that in the short term because he's got countries coming. The EU may not come, China may not come. But once Japan comes and the Japanese Prime Minister is willing to come and sign a deal, India comes, other countries come and sign a deal, there'll be only 2 or 3 countries left, the EU and China, which are big. And they have to face it because the EU's economy will be destroyed. They got a $350 billion trade surplus. China has got a $500-600 billion trade surplus. There's no way. And today you must have seen the Chinese are devaluing the currency. They're devaluing the currency to take the shock. And I think most probably he'll postpone this 9th UN to maybe 30 days, 40 days. And I will show the world. And he will negotiate and bring it down. As far as India is concerned, there's a great opportunity for India to reduce our tariffs to near zero or whatever America charges us on all the things that we buy from America, excluding possibly agriculture. In agriculture, we have to negotiate because we need pulses, which you can buy from America if they grow that. We need oil seeds, which you can grow, almonds and some other small things. We can all do that. And it's important for India because we want the American market. This is the time like the WTO, when China went and conquered the American markets, we should be the country of choice to export to America, open up a market. What will America export more to us? Very little manufacturing is left. So we go to have rules of origin in the agreement to say, if you add value of 30% in America, then you can export to us. And if we add value 30%, we can export to you because they don't want our traders to buy from China and ship to America. And we don't want Americans to buy from China and ship to India. We got to prevent this misuse. So we got to look at the opportunity and do it. I think this panic is unnecessary and overdone because people think it's going to be permanent. I don't think sensible people think it's going to be permanent because permanent implies that the pain will be there for America and Trump and his people are too smart to take the unnecessary pain. Right. But the shock is required.
Okay, Mr. Pai, we'll leave it at that. Let's see. Well, let's all hope it's only a short-term measure.
Keep watching.
And that the stock markets can take this. Right now, like I said, today, the Sensex opening 3,000 points down, the Nifty opening 1,000 points down. But relatively speaking, compared to other Asian markets, the Indian markets seem to be relatively less hit compared to the Hang Seng, compared to China, Taiwan, etc. Well, it's not just the stock markets. Industries big and small are also feeling the heat of these reciprocal tariffs. Global oil prices are undergoing volatility. At a time such as this, the central government has decided to increase excise duty on petrol and diesel by 2 rupees. But the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas has clarified that even though this hike will come into effect from the 8th of April, it will not be passed on to the consumer. So it will not affect the retail price of petrol and diesel, and that this 2 rupee excise duty hike will be absorbed by the PSU oil marketing companies. But the Union Minister also noted that petrol and diesel prices may be adjusted in the future. LPG prices have also been raised by 50 rupees per cylinder. That will start from tomorrow morning. This would be for both the Ujjwala as well as non-Ujjwala scheme users.
Let me clarify upfront on the record, we've already issued a clarification from the ministry, this will not be passed on to the consumer. Then can you legitimately expect prices of petrol and diesel to be moderated by the oil marketing companies in keeping with the global price? To which my answer would be yes. In a deregulated sector, you can expect them to accordingly adjust the market retail price.
All right, let's shift focus now to our political story. The Centre versus DMK face-off continues to grab the headlines. From the three-language formula debate to the delimitation discrimination, the Stalin government continues to pick swords against the central government. Prime Minister Modi himself has stepped into this political battlefield to try and settle the debate ahead of next year's assembly elections. In a razor-sharp attack, Prime Minister Modi debunked every single one of Stalin's concerns. Presenting a report card, the Prime Minister claimed that central funds to Tamil Nadu have actually tripled since 2014. Here's what the data from the Finance Ministry shows. Nearly 57,925 crores. That was the amount that was allocated to Tamil Nadu in the 10 years when UPA was in power between 2004 and 2014. Just a shade under 58,000 crores. But in the 10 years that Mr. Modi has been in government, a whopping 2,55,875 crores have been allocated in the last 10 years of NDA rule. That's a rise of almost 350%. In terms of tax devolution, which is the process or the formula by which tax revenues are distributed between centre and state, 94,971 crores was distributed between 2004 and 2014 when UPA was in power. And from 14 to now 24, 2,92,013 crore. That's a 207% rise in the funds allocated to Tamil Nadu.
विकसित भारत के सफर में तमिलनाडु का बहुत बड़ा रोल है। बीते दशक में तमिलनाडु के विकास के लिए 2014 से पहले की तुलना में 3 गुना ज्यादा पैसा सेंटर से दिया गया है। इससे तमिलनाडु की इकोनॉमिक और इंडस्ट्रियल ग्रोथ में बहुत बड़ी मदद मिली है। इसके बावजूद भी कुछ लोगों को बिना कारण रोते रहने की आदत है, वो रोते रहते हैं। मैं तो कभी कभी हैरान हो जाता हूं, तमिलनाडु के कुछ नेताओं की चिट्ठियां जब मेरे पास आती है, कभी भी कोई नेता तमिल भाषी में सिग्नेचर नहीं करता है। अरे तमिल का गौरव हो, मैं सबसे कहूंगा कम से कम तमिल भाषा में अपनी सिग्नेचर तो करो।
இந்திய பிரதமர் அவர்கள் இலங்கை சென்றிருந்தார். அப்போது மீனவர் விடுதலை மற்றும் கச்சத்தீவு குறித்து பெரிய அளவிலான முன்னெடுப்புகள் எடுக்கப்பட்டதாக தெரியவில்லை. மேலும் சிறையில் வாடும் 97 மீனவர்களும் சிறைபிடிக்கப்பட்டுள்ள படகுகளும் மீட்கப்பட்டு தாயகம் திரும்புவார்கள் என்ற எதிர்பார்ப்பு நிறைவேறாதது நமக்கெல்லாம் மிகுந்த வருத்தத்தையும் ஏமாற்றத்தையும் அளிக்கிறது. ஒன்றிய அரசும் இந்திய பிரதமரும் நமது கோரிக்கைகளை புறக்கணிக்கிறார்கள் என்றே கருத வேண்டியுள்ளது.
All right, I want to go across to a straight face-off tonight on the broadcast side. Hafizullah is spokesperson of the DMK. We'll also be joined by Sanju Verma, national spokesperson of the BJP, in just a moment. Mr. Hafizullah, first things first, the Prime Minister has said there's been a threefold increase in the funds allocated to Tamil Nadu in the 10 years of the NDA government. When UPA was in power, the funds allocated between 2004 and 2014 was 59,000 crores. That has gone upwards of 2 lakh crores between 14 and 24 when the NDA government is in power. How do you respond to that?
See, the budget of the UPA was roughly around 17 lakh crore. And what is the budget of the union government today in NDA? It is around 50 lakh crore. So naturally, when the budget of the country increases, the devolution will increase. Now, it is not only that the Indian government is giving it to the Tamil Nadu, but people from Tamil Nadu are also giving more taxes to the union government. So devolution formula has consistently remained the same, whereas the funds that is going from the states should also increase. That is why it becomes natural for the union government to give more funds. The question is the proportion of how much is being given by Tamil Nadu and how much in return is given back to Tamil Nadu is the question. So this is half truth. Where nobody is denying that you have not given funds. But the proportion of funds that's been given by Tamil Nadu to the proportion that we have gotten back is very less. For the fact that this government is taking 20% of the total tax receipt from the cess and surcharges, we do not come under the formula of devolution which the Finance Commission says. Hence, there is a disparity. And to his statement of signature in Tamil or English, that is not the problem of Tamil Nadu. The problem of Tamil Nadu is that our funds are being stopped by the union government for a compulsory imposition of a third language. That is the problem.
Okay, so Sanju Verma, respond to that. The issue is not whether they sign in Tamil or sign in Hindi or sign in English. The issue is how can you hold back central government funds because they are not adopting a third language formula.
You know, Zaka, first and foremost, let me take the opportunity to say that N.K. Stalin, the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, is notoriously infamous for not following constitutional protocol. Look at the audacity, not receiving the Prime Minister at Rameshwaram and then having the gall to lecture the BJP and Prime Minister Modi that Tamil Nadu is being given a step fatherly or step brotherly treatment, what have you. Let me put some facts out there in the public domain for the benefit of your audience. First and foremost, in the last 10 years of the Modi dispensation, there has been a 700% jump in allocation from railway budget towards Tamil Nadu. There has been a 300% jump in budgetary allocation towards Tamil Nadu. 14,800 crore worth of benefits have been availed by the farmers of Tamil Nadu via the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. 12,000 crore benefits have been derived by the farmers of Tamil Nadu via the PM Kisan Yojana. More than 3,700 fishermen have been released from captivity thanks to the efforts of Prime Minister Modi and his team in the last 10 years, with 600 fishermen being released in the last 1 year alone. Today, Zaka, there are 136 Vande Bharat trains which are operational. The highest number of Vande Bharat trains are from Maharashtra and the second highest are 3 states, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, Karnataka. Out of these 3 states, 2 are non-BJP ruled states. Chennai, Bengaluru, Chennai, Madurai, Chennai, Viluppuram, Chennai, Tirunelveli. You know, these are Vande Bharat Express trains which have made ease of living a reality for the people of Tamil Nadu. And let me say one more thing.
Okay.
45,000 crores. Get that number straight. 45,000 crores is being borrowed by Tamil Nadu under the Ways and Means Advances Facility of the Reserve Bank of India at concessional rate of 2% simply to stay afloat. And out of the GST devolution of 10,000 crore, which is the revenue deficit grant every month, 10,000 crore revenue deficit grant every month, the highest proportion goes to Tamil Nadu, Karnataka and West Bengal. You can check this data in the Finance Ministry archives. I'm not doffing data off my hat.
Mr. Hafizullah, highest number of Vande Bharat trains are in Tamil Nadu. The highest, ways and means grants that have been allocated from the RBI, that goes to Tamil Nadu. There is so much that the central government has done for Tamil Nadu, and yet the Chief Minister does not even show up for when the Prime Minister comes to inaugurate the Pamban Bridge in Tamil Nadu. I mean, basic courtesy is not being followed. That's the allegation from the BJP spokesperson.
The problem is not that so much at all, like how so much the BJP spokesperson is portraying it to be. We are talking about the devolutionary funds of how much we have given. If you have given more, we have given even more to the union government. So it's natural when there is a devolution formula. Are you giving it out of the devolution formula? Are you giving out of the devolution formula? No. Our concern is even in the devolution formula. I will give one example of a toothpaste. 10 rupees toothpaste which we buy, we give 90 paise as a tax to the union government from the CGST, and we get only 30 paise in return, including of everything Sanju Verma quoted. Whereas the same proportion goes to Bihar, that 90 paise which is paid by Bihar gets 2.5 rupees. This is the disparity that the union government is showing to us. What happens in the Manrega funds? Why is there a stagnation of 4,000 crores? It's a demand driven. We have submitted documents, but you're not giving us the due share of.
She is saying that that's being compensated by Kisan Samman Nidhi and other programs launched by the Modi government.
No, that is not the compensatory thing, sir. That is not the compensatory thing. Do you know what is the Fasal, that the farm insurance scheme it was actually 51-49 between union and state government. It has become 75% on this part of the state government.
Okay.
So all these data can be spoken, but practically, what is on the ground is that our Samagra Shiksha funds, legitimate funds, are being stopped because we are not accepting a 3-language
Okay,
formula.
Sanju
The chief
Verma.
minister had a business of inaugurating. The chief minister had a business of inaugurating a
Okay, you made your point. Let Sanju Verma now respond. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I heard you. The gentleman on the other side. Now, please let me have my say. Zaka, first and foremost, let's get one thing very clear. Like Prime Minister Modi said at Rameshwaram yesterday, the annual budget on an average used to be 900 crores under the erstwhile UPA regime. Today, that has jumped to 6,000 crores. But let us keep that aside for a while. I think the worst natural catastrophe that has hit Tamil Nadu in the last 2 years was Cyclone Michong and Cyclone Fengal in 2023 and 2024. And when those cyclones hit Tamil Nadu, completely disrupting normal life, it was the NDRF which was in action there. It was the Modi government which gave a grant of 3,782 crores. We asked Stalin, 3,782 crores ka lekha jokha bataiye. How did you spend that money? And there was absolutely pin drop silence. Out of 3,782 crores, Stalin spent only 600 crores. Where did the rest of the money go? Is the central government not going to ask state governments for accountability? Are Stalin and his team a law unto themselves? You will have to be transparent. And let me tell you one more thing. Stalin is trying to deflect attention from the fact that there is a Manrega scam in Tamil Nadu. There is a sewage vehicle scam in Tamil Nadu. There is a TASMAC scam in Tamil Nadu. TASMAC funds have been money laundered. TASMAC is accused of over-invoicing expenditure and under-invoicing income.
Okay.
Who is going to give answers on that count? Stalin just can't say Hindi, Tamil, ka ye jo narrative chalakar, you cannot deflect from your own incompetence. The fact of the matter is Stalin has nothing to show by way of positive track record. The debt of Tamil Nadu, Zaka, at 8.3 lakh crore plus is the highest. Tamil Nadu today is the most indebted state in India. Who's going to account for that? Is Modi responsible or is MK Stalin responsible for a debt of 8.3 lakh crore? Do you have answers? No. You go to RBI begging bowl. You come to the Prime Minister's office with a begging bowl. But
all right, I got to wrap up. Sanju Verma, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, Sanju Verma of the BJP and Syed Hafizullah of the DMK. This, I guess, will ramp up in right earnest as we count down to the assembly elections sometime middle of next year. This whole gloves off approach between BJP and DMK, specifically between the state government and the central government. But I want to shift focus from Tamil Nadu to neighboring Karnataka, where dozens of bulldozers felling the lush greenery. This was in the University of Hyderabad campus in Gachibowli in Hyderabad. This was in the middle of the night last week. That sent alarm bells ringing. The anger there was palpable. The matter went all the way to the Supreme Court, and it's the court that put a stay on the deforestation that was being done before an auction of the land by the state government. Now, days later, a similar scene is threatening to play itself out in Karnataka, where it's the Bengaluru local government there that's trying to follow in the same footsteps as what the Telangana government was doing. The Bengaluru Municipal Corporation has formally approached the Bengaluru University with a request to transfer 25 acres of land for an ambitious Brand Bengaluru project, which is said to be the brainchild of Deputy Chief Minister D.K. Shivkumar. And clearly, the students in Bengaluru University campus, as well as those who are commenting on social media, have been extremely upset at the move.
Government has given land to the Bangalore University to develop its own infrastructure. So whatever the land allotted to the Bangalore University, not even 1 inch of the land should be given to others. It is purely for the academic purpose, and it has to be retained with the Bangalore University.
Definitely, sir. We object is, sir, they wanted to make this Bangalore into bad Bangalore. It is not a brand Bangalore. They are not making this brand Bangalore. They are making bad Bangalore. We are completely objecting the concern, which is they wanted to make the sky deck and all. So we don't let this campus to use for non-academic purpose.
But the similarities between what's happening in Telangana and what's happening in Karnataka and the subsequent land row are just about uncanny. In Telangana, the government had planned to auction a 400-acre plot of land which houses the University of Hyderabad campus to build an IT park. Now, despite the massive opposition to the move, the Revanth Reddy government went forth with its plans trees were felled in the middle of the night, and the project was only halted after the Supreme Court intervened and put a stop on the deforestation by the state authorities. In Karnataka, the Bengaluru Municipal Authority is eyeing the land, which is part of the Bengaluru University campus, and it is even proposed for 300 acres of land to be used for a sky deck project. Like in Telangana, activists there are sounding an SOS over ecological concerns in Bengaluru as well. In fact, the latest controversy has triggered a fresh war of words between the BJP and the Congress. Listen in.
In Karnataka, whatever happened in Hyderabad is trying to be happening in Karnataka. We have seen in Hyderabad, the 400 acres of the university land was trying to be grabbed by the Telangana Congress government. Now in Karnataka, in Jnana Bharati campus of Bangalore University, government of Karnataka has said that please give up your land for tourism development. How right it is?
Mentioned to him that this place cannot be used for non-academic purposes. But he said there was a request from Bangalore University as to reduce the congestion in the Bangalore University. I expressed my concern saying that there could be a lot of resistance because this place cannot be used for non-academic purpose.
The Karnataka government seems to have learned no lessons from what has happened at the University of Hyderabad over the last week or so. The BBMP has now written to the Bangalore University seeking a 25-acre parcel of land to set up the Sky Deck project, which is the pet project of Deputy Chief Minister D.K. Shivkumar. In fact, after looking at various options in the city, the BBMP believes that setting up the Sky Deck project inside the university campus, the Jnana Bharati campus of the Bangalore University, will be a feasible option. But this has triggered massive concern among students and teachers within the university. They are worried that this university, which had more than 1,000 acres, has already lost a lot of land for encroachment and land being alienated for various other institutions, and now has only 800 acres. But if 25 acres is given to a project of this nature, they believe that this will lead to a significant footfall of tourists inside the campus that will affect the entire environment there, peace and tranquility, and it would not be feasible to have the university running from such a place. We've already seen the education minister trying to reassure people that they wouldn't give land for any purpose that's not educational in nature, but the BBMP and the state government is keen on ensuring that the Sky Deck project, which was approved by the cabinet in August last year, takes off and becomes a major landmark in Bengaluru. Well, we'll have to see if the government will have a rethink with this kind of opposition coming in from the students and the faculty of the Bangalore University.
That's some international news now. Is there another conflict brewing in West Asia? Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has placed the country's armed forces on high alert after President Donald Trump of the United States urged Tehran to hold negotiations on its nuclear program. He further threatened to bomb Iran if diplomacy fails. So the question is, what happens next? And are we possibly looking at another front opening in what is already a volatile West Asian region, given what's happening in Gaza?
The US is amassing nuclear-capable stealth bombers on a tiny British territory in the middle of the Indian Ocean. Just days after President Donald Trump threatened to bomb Iran, at least 6 B-2 Spirit bombers were spotted on the runway at Camp Thunder Bay in Diego Garcia. The US Air Force has 19 long-range strategic bombers in its arsenal, so that means 30% of the US's stealth bomber fleet is in Diego Garcia. Referred to as the ghosts of the sky, B-2 bombers can penetrate even the most sophisticated air defenses and deliver lethal, precise hits. The bombers, which cost $2 billion each, can reach a target anywhere in the world and return to base, and can be refueled mid-air. The B-2 bombers can carry huge GBU-57 bunker buster bombs that would be a key element in any possible military action against Iran's nuclear facilities, which are largely underground in hardened bunkers. The warplane's stealth characteristics give it the unique ability to penetrate an enemy's most sophisticated defenses. Its unrefueled range is approximately 6,000 nautical miles, and its ceiling is about 50,000 feet. The unprecedented stealth bomber deployment also comes amidst an intense 2-week airstrike campaign targeting Yemen's Houthi rebels. After targeting Israel-linked commercial vessels in the Red Sea to show their solidarity with Palestinians under attack in Gaza, the Houthis have been downing American drones and firing missiles at US warships like the USS Harry S. Truman aircraft carrier. President Trump warned the Iran-backed Houthis that real pain is yet to come. He also posted a video on Truth Social of a recent airstrike on the rebels. So, the deployment of bombers in Diego Garcia is being seen as a pincer attack by Trump. He is targeting the Houthis as well as pressuring Iran over its advancing nuclear program. The US recently deployed an additional terminal high-altitude area defense battery to Israel, along with 2 Patriot batteries. The deployment was made in preparation for any anticipated retaliation if there is an attack on Iran's nuclear facilities. 2 THAAD missile batteries have already been deployed in Israel, following former President Joe Biden's decision in October 2024 to send them in response to the threat of an Iranian ballistic missile attack. Meanwhile, US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth instructed the USS Carl Vinson aircraft carrier to deploy from the Indo-Pacific to the Middle East. The deployment of the USS Harry S. Truman in the Indo-Pacific theater has also been extended. The heavy deployment is also a move to send a message to Iran to renegotiate its nuclear deal with the Trump administration. President Trump wrote to Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei last month and gave a 2-month deadline to reach a new nuclear deal or face consequences. But Iran has rejected any direct negotiations. Iran has consistently denied having a military nuclear program, but reports indicate that Tehran has accelerated uranium enrichment to near weapons grade levels.
مواضع ما همه بدانند مواضع ما همون مواضعی است که بود دشمنی آمریکا و رژیم صهیونیستی هم همونی است که بود تهدید میکنن که شرارت خواهند کرد البته اگر شرارتی انجام بگیره ما خیلی اطمینان نداریم احتمال زیاد نمیدیم که از بیرون شرارتی انجام بگیره اما اگر شرارتی انجام بگیره قطعاً ضربه متقابل محکم خواهند خورد.
If Iran doesn't come to the negotiating table, its nuclear and weapons storage facilities could be potential targets for Donald Trump.
People are asking me to run, and there's a whole story about running for a 3rd term. I don't know. I never looked into it. They do say there's a way you can do it, but I don't know about that.
US President Donald Trump cannot run for a 3rd term as president, barring changes to the US Constitution. But that has not stopped him from openly flirting with the idea. He has floated it both publicly and privately, and over the weekend he said he was not joking about it. In an interview with NBC News, he insisted that there were methods to circumvent the 2-term limit as set out by the 22nd Amendment of the US Constitution. He even said that he would like the idea of running against Barack Obama in 2028, as both men would be seeking a 3rd term.
If you were allowed for some reason to run for a 3rd term, is there a thought that the Democrats could try to run Barack Obama against you?
I'd love that.
For his 3rd term?
Boy, I'd love that. That would be a good one. I'd like that.
But Obama has not shown any inclination to run for a 3rd term, even as the Democrats seem to be in a bit of a funk post the Trump election win back in November. No American president since Franklin Delano Roosevelt has had more than 2 terms in office, since they are barred expressly by the Constitution's 22nd Amendment from running for office beyond 2 terms. But Trump is cut of a different political cloth. his frequent teasing about a possible third term also serves a deeper political purpose, irrespective of whether or not he can run or whether he will actually decide to run. They redirect attention from the other controversies plaguing his administration, like the leaked signal chats in which his top national security advisors inadvertently included a journalist in a group chat which discussed about an upcoming military operation. They also freeze the field of potential successors who may try to steal the spotlight from a lame duck president. That is a status that no American president wants to find himself in, a status that is dreaded because presidents would see their relevance diminish if they become a lame duck. Now, back in January, just before Mr. Trump took office, House of Representatives member Andy Ogles of Tennessee, a Republican, had proposed a long-shot amendment to the Constitution to make Trump eligible for a third term. But on Capitol Hill, top Republicans have rejected the idea of changing the Constitution. They even suggested that President Trump was only joking. The top-ranking Republicans in both the House and the Senate have rejected the idea of changing the Constitution to enable a third term for President Trump. White House officials have also suggested the same line, saying that Trump did not actually bring up this topic. It was only responding to questions when asked by reporters that he talked about the possibility of a third term.
Look, you guys continue to ask the president this question about a third term, and then he answers honestly and candidly with a smile, and then everybody here melts down about his answer. The president talked about this last night on the plane. He said, it's not really something we're thinking about. He has 4 years. There's a lot of work to do. We've done a lot in these nearly first 100 days, and the American people love what this president is doing, particularly when it comes to efforts to secure the border.
Trump's strategy also, on the one hand, is to try and keep people guessing. It keeps people on their toes. The people on the left, of course, go crazy hearing about a third term, and it's going to put other people who may want to run on a Republican ticket on notice that, look, Trump is not going away in a hurry, that he's going to be around on the political horizon much longer than we think he will. So just a few months into his second term, he has declared a broad mandate to reshape the federal government. He's demonstrated an expansive view of executive power. He's signed hundreds of executive orders in the last 2 months plus that he's been in office. He has also shown disdain for other branches of government like the judiciary, which may try to restrain him. The US Constitution expressly rules out any president having a third term. The 22nd Amendment states, and I quote, "No person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice, and no person who has held the office of president for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected shall be elected to the office of president more than once," unquote. Changing the Constitution would be a laborious task. It would require a 2/3 approval from both the Senate and the House of Representatives. It will also require ratification from 3/4 of the country's state-level governments. Trump's Republican Party controls both chambers of Congress, the House and the Senate, but they do not have the requisite 2/3 majorities in either chamber. The Republicans currently control the Senate 51 to 49, and in the House they have 219, which is the thinnest majority in modern American history. Additionally, the Democratic Party, the main opposition party, controls 18 out of the 50 state legislatures, so getting 3/4 support there is also out of question. But Trump supporters say there is a loophole in the Constitution, something that is so far untested in the courts of law. They argue that the 22nd Amendment only explicitly bans someone being elected to more than 2 presidential terms. It does not say anything about a succession. Now, under this theory, Trump could be the vice presidential running mate to another candidate. He could be the vice presidential ticket for J.D. Vance running as president in the 2028 election. If that ticket wins, if Vance and Trump win in 2028, then the candidate who would be at the top of the ticket, which is Vance, would be sworn into the White House and then immediately resign, thereby allowing Trump to take over by succession. So the takeover is not by election, but by succession. This is something that some Democrats had suggested to Joe Biden to do in the lame duck period between November and January, after Trump won the election but before he took office, so as to enable the then Vice President Kamala Harris to become the president. The last US president elected to more than 2 terms was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who was elected 4 times. He died 3 months into his fourth term in April of 1945. After Roosevelt died, the 22nd Amendment got codified into law that no one can run for president a third time. That law was followed in letter and spirit by some of the most successful American presidents, from Eisenhower to Reagan to Clinton to Obama. And that is something that Trump could very well change in 4 years' time.
China, 67%. European Union, 39%. Vietnam, 90%. India, very, very tough. Very, very tough. They charge us 52%.
Well, at the moment, the market is reacting to the fact that there was no ameliorative or softer statement from the US or from President Trump over the weekend. On Thursday and Friday, the US markets fell over 10%. The Nasdaq is in bear territory, which means 20% off its highs. When an index falls over 20%, you call it bear territory. The expectation was that after seeing such a fall, which has happened only 3 times before in recent history, during COVID and during the 2008 Lehman crisis, if he doesn't respond to that, then is he likely to not pull back at all? That is the sentiment to which the Asian markets are reacting now. In addition, of course, there is the Chinese retaliation as well. So the markets here are reacting to the fact that there is no ameliorative statement. We will still have to wait and see. An ameliorative statement from the US president to any of the countries can still pull back the market somewhat. What the market is worried if there is a retaliatory statement even from the EU, then it's a global trade war. China has already called the war. So that's what the market is confused about. It was expected that big crash was the worst, but that didn't happen. It looks like there will be even worse in terms of Trump holding back, ready to take the immediate pain. His statement was that some medicine is needed. That's the market's worry, really. It is going to get worse before it gets better. That's the first worry. The second worry is, even when it gets better, the world is going to grow much more slowly than what was expected before the Trump presidency. We are reacting to that. So even when we correct, we're not going to correct back to the previous levels because there is a global slowdown. Actually, only the developed countries and China who have retaliated. They are in a slightly stronger position than India is, than developing countries are. And so those are the two blocks that have retaliated. The rest of them are willing to come to any concessions. To be fair, even Canada is willing to come to concessions. But the Indian position relative to this issue is very strong. Our trade deficit, the important point is Trump is not going by your tariff levels. You can have 100-200% tariffs for all he cares, but don't have a trade deficit with my country, which is buy more from us and sell less to us. That's all he wants, which is India is in a position to do, because our trade deficit with him is only $40 billion or thereabouts, and one can easily buy more oil even if it's a little more expensive. And once the trade deficit comes down to about $10 billion, the tariffs on our products will come down. We will still have a 10% tariff, which he has announced on all countries, but we are in a much better position to negotiate, saying we will buy some more, and thereby, if you give him a commitment that we will bring down the trade deficit to $10 billion or zero by the end of this year, tariffs can come down. We are in a better position. But you must remember that that is not the only reason why the markets are falling. That will make things better for us. Markets are falling because we are not only selling to the US, we are selling to the world. And if the world is in a tighter place, in a worse place, then Indian markets will reflect that. Our exports to other countries will also suffer. So we have to keep that in mind. We are in a good position with respect to the US. We will be the economy which will fall less than other economies, but our growth is going to be less than we thought earlier this year.
China, 67%. European Union, 39%. Vietnam, 90%. India, very, very tough. Very, very tough. They charge us 52%.
Well, at the moment, the market is reacting to the fact that there was no ameliorative or softer statement from the US or from President Trump over the weekend. On Thursday and Friday, the US markets fell over 10%. The Nasdaq is in bear territory, which means 20% off its highs. When an index falls over 20%, you call it bear territory. The expectation was that after seeing such a fall, which has happened only 3 times before in recent history, during COVID and during the 2008 Lehman crisis, if he doesn't respond to that, then is he likely to not pull back at all? That is the sentiment to which the Asian markets are reacting now. In addition, of course, there is the Chinese retaliation as well. So the markets...
Viewers, it's been one of those roller coaster days where things haven't looked quite bright. Dark Monday, Black Monday is what it's being called. Larger than expected tariffs imposed by Donald Trump sparked a meltdown in global markets. The ripples hit India today with both the Sensex and Nifty crashing about 3%. About 14 lakh crore of investor wealth, your wealth, was wiped out in a few minutes. The figure would have been 19 lakh crore had the markets not recovered just a little bit before close. At the end of the day, the Nifty 50 is 3.1% down. The BSE shade under that, 2.9% down. The Sensex fell to a 10-month low in early trade. 20 lakh crore was wiped out in the first 10 seconds. Of course, 6 lakh crores were gained back. All 13 major sectoral indices traded in the red. If it's any consolation, Hong Kong, China, Japan and other Southeast Asian indices were worse off, and you can see that on your screens, viewers. Hong Kong taking by far the biggest beating, minus 13.2%. It was in the red by 13.2%. Taiwan a close second, 9.7%. Singapore 7.6%. China 7.3%. South Korea 5.7%. But the bear hug threatens to persist, creating problems for retail investors. Not just globally, but also here in India. This morning, viewers, the Dow first started off with a flurry and recovered some lost ground. Why? Because there was a rumor, viewers, that there was a moratorium on tariffs declared for 90 days. It turned out to be fake news, and therefore, viewers, after that, you can see it, the Dow right down 1,000 points, viewers, almost 2.7%. Let me give you a little statistic. If you had invested rupees 1 lakh into the Sensex on January 1, 2025, your investment would be approximately 93,000 today. So it would have come down, assuming that the money you put in mirrors the performance of the Sensex exactly. But had you put in rupees 1 lakh into buying gold, your investment would be at about 1,26,400 as of today. With a full-blown trade war now raging, what should you do? Where should you put your money? We'll take that question to the experts. But before that, we have a more basic one to answer. Will the tariff shock rock India's GDP growth? I think that's a vital concern. With many predicting a recession in the US, very few analysts would bet against it. Goldman Sachs is saying the probability of US recession is up from 35% to 45%. JP Morgan, odds of recession at 60%. S&P Global said odds of recession between 30 to 35%. So a variation in these numbers. But viewers, everyone seems to be indicating that America is going to hit a recession, which is basically showing losses in 2 back-to-back quarters. But unlike China, that has threatened to respond to Trump, India's relative insulation from direct tariff tit-for-tat confrontations affords it a degree of strategic advantage. Domestic